You're much smaller than I imagined. Come here. The words hung in the warm, cedar-scented air of the study. I stood frozen in the doorway, my wet boots dripping onto the polished concrete floor. Every survival instinct I had developed over 26 years of life was screaming at me to run. You do not get into cars with strangers. You do not go up to their penthouses at 4 in the morning. But as I looked at the man standing by the fire, those instincts dissolved into a strange, heavy static. I forced my legs to move. I crossed the threshold into the study, stopping a few feet away from his mahogany desk. Up close, the sheer physical scale of him was overwhelming. He was at least 6'3", his broad shoulders cutting a dark silhouette against the glowing amber light of the fire. He wasn't looking at me with pity. He was looking at me like I was a highly complex equation he was preparing to solve.
You are freezing. Take the coat off.
It wasn't a suggestion. It was a soft, inevitable command. My fingers were shaking so badly I could barely manage the cheap plastic buttons of my trench coat. I finally wrestled it off my shoulders. It hit the floor with a wet, heavy slap. Underneath, I was just wearing my old gray yoga pants and a damp t-shirt. I crossed my arms over my chest, shivering violently. James set his crystal tumbler down. He walked past me, his movements completely silent for a man of his size. He disappeared into the adjoining room for less than 10 seconds. When he returned, he was holding a massive, thick cashmere blanket. It was dark charcoal gray. He didn't hand it to me. He stepped directly into my personal space. The scent of him, rich bergamot, smoke, and something sharply masculine, wrapped around me before the fabric even did. He draped the heavy cashmere over my shoulders, pulling the edges together at my chest to seal the warmth in. His knuckles lightly brushed against my collarbone. A sudden, jarring jolt of electricity spiked through my exhausted nervous system.
Sit down, Maya. Drink.
I sank into the oversized leather armchair opposite his desk. I pulled the cashmere tightly around my throat, burying my nose in the soft wool. I reached out with a trembling hand and took the glass. It wasn't scotch. It was water, completely perfectly iced. I drank half of it in one terrified, desperate swallow. James walked around the desk and sat in his own chair. He leaned back, steepling his long fingers together, and watched me breathe.
Start from the beginning. Tell me exactly what he took.
I stared down at the ice floating in my glass. The humiliation of it all came rushing back, a hot flush of shame burning the back of my neck. $42,000. It was in a joint savings account. We were supposed to pay the caterer and the venue on Friday. When I logged into the app, the balance was 0. I waited for the judgment. I waited for him to tell me how stupid I was to share an account with a man I wasn't married to yet. I waited for the patronizing lecture. It never came.
And the routing history? Did he wire it to a domestic institution or move it to a decentralized exchange?
I blinked, looking up at him. There was no pity in his dark eyes. He was already dismantling the problem. I don't know. The transaction log just said external transfer, Apex node. When he was screaming at me through the hotel door, he said he moved it into a high-yield crypto wallet. He said the market was crashing, and he was trying to protect our future.
Gaslighting. The refuge of a lazy thief. Apex Node is a notoriously unregulated offshore routing service. He wasn't protecting your future, Maya. He was liquidating it. He planned to move the funds somewhere the IRS and the family courts couldn't touch them.
A fresh tear spilled over my lower lash line, tracking hot and fast down my freezing cheek. It took me 3 years to save that. 3 years of double shifts at the clinic. It was the money my grandmother left me. I have exactly $34 in my personal checking account. I have nothing left. I buried my face in my hands, a humiliating sob tearing out of my throat. I couldn't stop it. The dam had finally broken. I sat in a stranger's multi-million-dollar penthouse and cried until my ribs ached. James didn't offer me a tissue. He didn't offer empty platitudes like, "It's gonna be okay." He simply waited for my breathing to slow down.
Look at me.
I slowly lowered my hands.
You do not have nothing. You have me. And by the time the sun goes down tomorrow, your fiancé is going to beg you to take that money back.
I flinched, almost dropping my glass. My phone was sitting on the edge of the mahogany desk where I had placed it. The screen was lit up, flashing brightly in the dim study. The caller ID read, "David, sell." Panic, cold and sharp, flooded my veins. He was still awake. He was still hunting me. I reached a trembling hand forward to decline the call, but before my fingers could graze the screen, a massive, warm hand clamped down over my wrist. I gasped, freezing in place. James's grip wasn't painful, but it was an immovable, absolute force. His thumb rested against my pulse point, which was hammering wildly against my skin. He didn't look at me. He looked at the ringing phone.
Do you want to speak to him?
No.
Then you will never have to speak to him again.
He answered the call.
Maya, where the hell did you go? I swear to God, you need to stop this childish game right now. Those thugs in the hallway practically assaulted me. Who did you call? Are you at a police station?
She isn't at a police station, David.
The silence on the other end of the line was instantaneous. The sheer shock of hearing a deep, unfamiliar male voice answering his fiancé's phone effectively paralyzed him.
Who? Who is this? Put Maya on the phone, right now.
Maya is currently sitting in my study, drinking ice water and recovering from the fact that the man she trusted spent Friday afternoon laundering $42,000 through an offshore crypto node.
Listen to me, buddy. I don't know who you are, but you are interfering in a private domestic dispute. You are harboring a confused woman. Give her the phone before I call the authorities and have you arrested for kidnapping.
Call them. Please. Dial 911. Tell the dispatcher that you traced your fiancé's emergency credit card to an interstate motel at 3 in the morning, where my security detail found you attempting to break down her door.
David didn't say a word. I could hear his rapid, ragged breathing through the tiny speaker.
Here is what is going to happen, David. You are going to go back to the apartment. You are going to pack your belongings, and you are going to leave the keys on the kitchen counter. Tomorrow morning, my forensic accounting team will locate the Apex Node wallet. If that $42,000 is not wired back into Maya's personal account by 5 p.m., I will personally ensure that every regulatory agency in this city audits your firm into the ground.
You can't!
Do not contact this number again. Do not look for her. If you come within 50 yards of her, my head of security will not pin you to a wall. He will break your jaw. Do we understand each other?
There was a long, suffocating pause.
Yes.
I stared at the dark screen of the phone. My entire body felt weightless. For 5 years, David had controlled every argument. He had manipulated every narrative, twisting my words until I apologized for things I hadn't even done. And in exactly 2 minutes and 14 seconds, a complete stranger had dismantled him entirely. James picked up my phone and slipped it casually into his own suit pocket.
I'm keeping this for the night. You do not need to look at a screen and panic until the sun comes up.
You just threatened to destroy his firm.
I didn't threaten him, Maya. I gave him a schedule of events.
He stood up from the desk. He walked around to where I was sitting, buried in the charcoal cashmere.
My housekeeper, Elena, has prepared the guest suite at the end of the east wing. There are dry clothes on the bed, a toothbrush, whatever you need. You are going to lock the door, and you are going to sleep for 10 hours.
I looked up at him. The adrenaline was entirely gone, replaced by a heavy, intoxicating sense of absolute safety. But my pride was still stubbornly clinging to the surface. James, I can't stay here. I don't know you. You've already done too much. I'll just sleep on the sofa and figure out a shelter in the morning.
No.
The single word was absolute law.
You are not going to a shelter. You are not sleeping on a sofa. You dialed my number tonight. Whether it was a mistake or an act of fate, you became my responsibility the second I picked up the phone.
He reached down. His large hand gently gripped my chin, tilting my face up so I was forced to look directly into his dark, obsessive eyes.
You are mine to protect right now. Do not fight me on this.
The warmth of his hand against my freezing skin sent a violent shiver down my spine that had absolutely nothing to do with the cold. I couldn't look away. I didn't want to. I don't even know your last name.
It's Thorne. James Thorne.
My heart completely stopped. Thorne Global, the massive venture capital firm that owned half the commercial real estate in the city. The notoriously ruthless, intensely private billionaire who had graced the cover of Forbes 3 times but had never given a single televised interview. I hadn't just dialed the wrong number. I had dropped my ruined life directly into the lap of the most dangerous man in the city.